Welcome back. I've got Mike Goldman on. Michael, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing? It's been a very long time since we spoke this morning on my podcast.
Exactly. It's been hours and hours. It went by. It's like it seems like I just disconnected. And okay, here we are again. So no, it's fun when that works out that way. It's kind of cool to be able to do that. So for those that aren't familiar of the amazing work you're doing, why don't you share a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm a leadership team coach, which basically means I don't do one-on-one coaching. I work with leadership teams that are trying to scale their business. I have been coaching and consulting for over 35 years. I've had my own coaching business for about 18. My primary thing I do is coaching, but I have also written a few books. The third one is launching in mid-October, which could have happened or will be happening depending on when folks are listening to this. I do a lot of speaking, and I've also got a podcast, which we alluded to a little earlier, called the Better Leadership Team Show.
Yeah, so you're being as productive as I am, which is always good. And congratulations on all the books and especially the new one. And I know that's something we're going to dive into a little bit, but I always ask, and I'll ask this question too in a moment about writing books and all that. But go back to just your observations of what we've seen over the last 5 years, because the last 5 years have been intriguing to say the least. Lots of twists and turns along the way, from the pandemic to global economic challenges to wars to you name it. There's all kinds of things going on. Have you noticed anything different? Because obviously, with your career, you've seen obviously a lot, and I'm curious to see if anything in the last 5 years is really dramatically different from what we've experienced in previous years, or is it, a little bit of, something new? Love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it is different. People like to say things are moving faster than ever. Man, I started my career in 1987. Things are moving pretty fast then too. So that may be true, but I think it's not as much about speed, although by the time we're done with this, AI will do 10 things that it wasn't doing, but before we started this podcast, that's moving really fast. What I have seen is less about speed and more about complexity. Things have gotten way more complex than they were before, from remote and hybrid work to AI to shifts in how global we are or aren't, and the impact that has on business, to the political crap going on, back and forth, the impact it's had on the different generations within the workforce. I just think things have gotten way more complex, which has made it, I think, harder than I've ever seen to lead people, lead a company without totally getting overwhelmed and losing your mind.
Yeah, what's so funny is we've got all these tools to make things easier, and things are more complex. It's an interesting dilemma that we find ourselves in, because I think back to 1987, and I started my career then too. I was in college at the time, but I was also working and starting it off, and I think about how things were moving quickly from, hey, we got computers, so we're using Windows, so we're moving away from DOS-based applications, and thinking all the things that we got to do and how efficient we would be and how quicker it was to do certain things. And fast forward to now, I think back to, wow, that would be painful to have to limit ourselves to, that type of technology now, because we can just easily look things up and do things immediately. And as you said, with AI, in the next 20 minutes is going to be doing a lot of things that it couldn't do before, to the point of, and a lot of people I know are scared about, is this going to take my job? And throughout history and whatnot, we have seen jobs go away, but we've also seen jobs get created. And it's one of those things where you just, understand where your skills are, where do you need to, learn new things in order for you to, meet the dreams and goals that you have, and go a long way. But, to your point about, leadership having the challenges, not only do we have all the things going on in the world, which are mostly external to us, We all wear them. We all bring them to work. They're part of our daily lives, and that impacts our productivity. And then, again, the situation with, we've had, how many different generations in the workforce now, and each of us have kind of experienced different things, and our definition of what work should look like may not be the same as our colleagues. And I think without having, really good, conversation mechanisms within a workplace, that can create some really interesting dynamics. And I know you've seen it throughout your career, especially with, the leadership teams you've helped, to help them navigate through some of those things, because I know that you've experienced it and they have too.
Absolutely. And it's become, you know, it's become, I guess I was about to say it's become more important, and I think I'm wrong in that. It's always been important to make sure that we are aligning around expectations with our people, that we are holding people accountable, that we are coaching and developing people. And I think that has, with the complexity of the world, that has become harder to do. But I think it's for great leaders, it's challenged them to be better. And a lot of great leaders have risen to the challenge. But for example, I believe the traditional methods of performance management, annual or quarterly performance reviews and, 360 reviews and performance improvement plans and all that stuff. I actually believe performance management is killing our performance. I think the traditional methods don't work. We need to fix them. The Mercer Group did a study and found that only 2% of leaders felt like their performance management was adding real value. If what most people say is true, oh, people are our greatest asset. People like to say that. Well, if that's true, we've got to fix this if it's broken, and it is broken.
Oh, it's definitely broken. We've seen, studies. I think Gartner, does one every year, where employee engagement keeps getting lower and lower. And I think about that from a consumer standpoint, obviously leadership standpoint, and the work that I do, it's front and center. But when I think about it from a consumer standpoint, what products and services that would be beneficial to us will never see the light of day because 7 or 8 out of 10 of your employees aren't engaged enough to even bring the idea forward. And it's limiting us. It's actually, slapping a governor on things where we can't drive faster than 60 miles an hour when we have a Lamborghini and we know those things and go, don't speed, people. I'm not telling you to do that, but at the end of the day, we run into that limitation that we put on ourselves. And talent, and to your point about employees being the greatest asset, your talent will dictate where you go. Yes, the leader directs, don't get me wrong, critically important. If you have a leader without a vision, you have a vision to sink. When more than half of the Fortune 500 companies from the year 2000 are gone, you can do the math on that. It happens too often. But when you have a leader that recognizes my talent is going to make me or break me, hopefully they're starting to think about, okay, what do we do with our talent? How do we bring the best out of them, hold them accountable? And I love how you said that, but also create the environment where they can be their best. We want them to be their best. Is the environment allowing that? And in many cases, it's not.
Yeah, I believe in the whole kind of through message of my new book and the whole kind of umbrella philosophy of everything I do is that the number one driver of profit growth is people growth. It's not a new strategy, it's not a new technology, it's not a new market, it's people growth. So as a leader, you've got to ask yourself, have I made growing the members of my team my number one priority? And that's a tough question because if most leaders are being honest, the answer is no. They could say people are their greatest asset. But when push comes to shove, when a company's in some trouble, what's one of the first budgets that gets cut? It's training and development. And well, then how could you say that's the most important thing? I've seen great strategies with the wrong people fail every time. But a mediocre strategy with great people, with the right people, those right people find a way to succeed. So as leaders, we need a process. And performance management, that's not working, the traditional processes. We need a process to assess performance, to retain and keep our top performers growing, to turn our medium performers into top performers, to make decisions on our low performing folks. Can they be coached up or do they need to coach out? And I'll tell you the biggest mistake I see leaders make, and I say this because I made this mistake for many, many years, is the folks I really focused on that I spent most of my time with were my lowest performers. And I believe most leaders overinvest in their low performers and underinvest in their high performers. We need to spend more time with our best people. You know, there's something I call high performance math. And high performance math is very simple. It says, think about your top performer. If you could increase their productivity, their results by 10%, calculate whatever that number is. Now increase the productivity of your lowest performer by 10%. Which number is bigger? I promise you the number is bigger for your high performer. So where should you focus your time? Where are you going to get your greatest ROI? It's a pretty obvious answer.
Well, very much so. And even the performers that are underneath your top performer, some of them will naturally, just because they're driven and they want to be successful, they see, the top performer stepping up, so they decide, you know what, I need to step up too. So all of a sudden you're getting, and their percentages are again much better than the low performers. And I was guilty of doing the same thing. You spend a lot of time on those low performers, and you're like, it's just, it's not. And I'm not saying this from, a human being standpoint, but it's just from a business sense. It's just not your best investment of time. Spend, improving, everything that your great people are doing, and create an environment where again they stay, because we know retention has been a big challenge over the years and seems to be a little bit more prevalent than ever. Because the war for talent is out there, and again, there's still, unfortunately, and I had this conversation earlier with somebody. It saddens me when I see top performers leave an organization or leave an industry. I've seen it with nursing as an example, and they go to work in a retail shop, or they decide they're going to work two or three jobs, cobble together a revenue stream for themselves, because they're tired of the toxicity and the management not caring, and the constant 360 reviews when nothing changes no matter what you say or do. And they leave the industry, and we lose great talent because of these environments that aren't run well. And like I said, it saddens me a lot, because it robs society of great things. And you and I both, we want the best out of everybody, because we're all going to benefit from a society standpoint for sure.
And yes, society, but I'm going to go more narrow. You as a leader listening to this, you as a leader, the biggest frustration most leaders have is that their teams aren't performing. Why don't people care as much as I care? How come I'm here at 8 o'clock at night and everybody else went home? How come I can't go take a vacation? Leadership is tough and it's frustrating and it's overwhelming, but we bring it on ourselves when we tolerate mediocrity, when we invest time in the wrong people. Your best people want to grow. And if you're not helping them grow, they will grow somewhere else. And for the lower performers, hey, they're human beings, as you said. Everybody deserves coaching. But I'll tell you, one of the best ways to take care of one of your highest performers is to fire your low performers who are holding them back.
Oh, we've seen that time and time again, and I've had to do that, even going back to the healthcare setting again, letting go a low performing nurse that was originally a high performing nurse, but some personal situations came up in their life and they weren't dealing with it well, and it impacted their ability to do their job well. And we were as patient as we could be. Maybe I was patient a little too long, but I recognized it because I started seeing the performance of the others starting to drop. And I'm like, oh no, we cannot have this. So, using a Jack Welch term, we dehired that individual, and the other people returned. And again, they started to thrive and grow, and we were able to expand the practice because they recognized I want everyone to help each other, and we can't have somebody that's not willing to step up to help each other. If we have somebody holding us back, we cannot have an anchor like that. So we've done it. Didn't like doing it, but we did it. Let's move forward, and we did, and it was one of the best decisions we made for that particular clinic. So, what do you think? How am I going to frame this? So, actually, let me go to the book. Let's go to the book because I really want to dive into that a little bit. And I know you've written several books, but I always ask authors, what motivated you to give up so much of your time to write this one? What about this book did you feel it's like this has to be out there? I'm seeing this too often.
Yeah, so there's two reasons. One is more of a selfish reason, maybe the wrong way to think of it, but one was more about me and something I was trying to do, and one was more about kind of the bigger picture. And the one that was more about me is, I wrote a book called Breakthrough Leadership Team back in 2020, and that was it was my second book, but that book encompasses what I do when I coach leadership teams, and it's the six pillars of building a great leadership team. And the sixth pillar is called developing and improving the team. It's all about assessing performance, coaching and developing people, making the difficult decision to transition people out that aren't a fit. And when I would work with my clients, when I would go around the country doing keynotes and workshops with groups of leaders and CEOs, what I found is what was resonating most with everyone of all of those six pillars was that sixth one, was this idea. And I started calling it the talent density framework, the talent density system. And there's a measure for people growth I call the talent density indicator. And having a model and a measure and having a new take on all the traditional performance management techniques that didn't work really resonated with folks. And when I was thinking, I was actually thinking, hey, I need a new keynote. What should I do the new keynote on? I'm like, hey, that's really resonating. Maybe I need to dive deep on that. And then I thought, well, that's not a keynote. I mean, it is a keynote, but I think that's my next book. And by the way, I love having written, but I hate writing. So when I thought that's my next book, I thought, oh crap, now I got to write another book. But so that's what kind of drove me kind of internally, but more selflessly looking at the outside world, I see so many leaders struggling with their companies, just growth slowing and frustration with their teams and the typical methods again of performance management not working, and they don't know where to go. And I see people just not being fulfilled at all by work, whether it's the leader or it's the team members. And I really believe that we've got to fix that. And I really think of what I do as a movement to fix that versus just hey, here's another tool you could use to help your companies grow. I really want to create a situation where the the companies are growing not on the backs of their people, but the companies are growing because the people within the companies are growing. And most leaders, frankly, have no idea the difference between coaching, development, and holding people accountable. And we need to understand that better as leaders. We need to do a better job of working with our people. And I believe we need something new. And that's why I wrote the book.
No, it's great, and it's desperately needed. And the fact that you recognize in the work that you're doing with the six pillars that that was the one that just kept coming up again and again and again to the point going, okay, we need to dig a little deeper into this because it's obviously an area that so many people are craving slash struggling with. And again, you get that right. A lot of other things, they don't take care of themselves, but they kind of do. And if you have that environment where you're developing people, you're coaching them, you're nurturing them, you're creating an environment where they get reinvigorated to work. And I see that from time to time in organizations where it's like, wow, these people actually really enjoy this. They look forward to Monday, where other people are dreading Monday and it's Tuesday. They're already dreading next Monday. And it's that's no way to exist. And organizations shouldn't be that way, but they are. And there's so many different reasons which we all see. But I think what's so critically important about your book, and again, congratulations on it, is it's going to lay out the framework for people to, and we talked about this during our interview earlier today too. Um, you can make it simple, and that's a lot of people, especially leaders, get frozen because they can't understand that something is simple. They're so wired for it's going to be complex, and we have to do this and this and this. It's like here's the framework. It's simple, and it confuses them because they're expecting complex VUCA, you name it, and it's like no, here's the roadmap. Here's the system to apply.
Yeah,
Here's how
and
you
the
implement.
hard part, and while it's not complicated, the hard part is prioritizing it. One of the things that's talking to a client earlier who is all of a sudden very focused on we need to put an annual performance evaluation in place because they've never had one before. I happen to think annual performance reviews are the worst invention ever created in business. And for people that say, well, that's why I do it quarterly, congratulations, you do a crappy process 4 times a year. But that is while most organizations screw that up and they don't get the reviews in on time and they create this bureaucratic process, that's kind of an easy way to do it because we're going to do it once a year. Whereas the right answer that is simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy to implement. The right answer is we need to have the right ongoing conversations. What do are you having weekly one-on-one meetings with each of your direct reports? What do those meetings look like? Are you just sitting there saying, "Hey, what's going on? What do you want to talk about?" Or is there a framework that's going to help people grow? That's going to coach them. That's going to hold them accountable. That's going to give them feedback. That is critical. And it's not rocket science, but it takes prioritizing growing your people. And that is something that takes a big shift.
It's a shift that I want all organizations to make because we're all going to benefit from it. So, Mike, love this conversation and the one earlier too. So, why don't you share where people can find you, the name of the book, and everything else you're doing?
Yeah. So if you want to know more about the book, you can go to strengthoftalent.com. More about me and my coaching and everything, Mike Goldman is mike-goldman.com. And then lastly, super proud of my podcast and the guests that I've had on, including yourself. And that is called the Better Leadership Team Show. And you could find that anywhere you could find podcasts, including YouTube and my own website, mike-goldman.com.
Awesome. And I'll definitely have that show notes and all that information. So I highly encourage everybody to subscribe, watch and listen and pick up the books. You'll be better for it. So Mike, again, thank you for your time today and earlier today. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.